Salam guys, today we're going to solve some examples the examples that may come in the quiz or in the exams or whatsoever. So we will start analyzing every single detail. One of the most famous questions that you will be asked, it says that translate the following word equations to simple equations. What does this mean? It means that you're given a text in here, and this text describes a reaction. So this text says sodium, which is Na, reacts, means plus, with oxygen. You just remember oxygen looks like O2. To produce, sodium oxide, which is the product. How can I translate all of these issues to a simple equation? The simple equations indicates the symbols, or let's say the letters of the elements. So it says that you have sodium. You just remember like sodium. Sodium, it's a metal for sure, and that's why it's solid, right? And then we said it reacts with oxygen. We put O2. What remembers O2 is a gas, and we put it here like this, and produce, right here produces what? Sodium oxide. How to write sodium oxide? We just remember that. You have to say Na, and we have O. We just remember that oxygen is an element that is in group number 6, and that's why it gains 2 electrons. For sodium, it's an element in group number 1, and that's why it loses 1 electron. Just recall that. If you have an element that is in group 1, 2, or 3, it will lose these electrons. If it's in group 4, if it's in group 5, 6, and 7, then it will gain. For the 7, it will gain 1. For 6, it gains 2. For 5, it gains 3. Then here we make a cross multiplication, and that's why we just noticed that sodium is Na2O. And we just remember something. The oxide of metals are always solid, and that's why we put a small solid in here. Okay, the second part of the question says, after writing the equation, we have to balance this equation. Okay, so I'm going to erase all of this stuff in here, and I'm going to balance this equation. I have a beautiful equation, and this equation is going to be balanced as well. Let's start with sodium atom. How many atoms of sodium? We have only 1 here, but here we have 2. Then what to do in this case? We have to multiply this by 2. Then, as we can see, the sodium atoms are happy. Yay, it's very good. But if you go for oxygen here, you have 2 oxygen atoms. And if we go here, we have only 1. How can I change it to 2? We multiply the whole number here by 2. But in this case, put in your mind, if you multiply this, you multiply sodium and you multiply oxygen. And now the oxygen atoms are happy. But if we go back again for sodium, we have 2. I just want to remove that. If you look at sodium atom here, we have 2 times 2. Then we have 4 sodium atoms. So we have to multiply this by 2, and then we got it like 4Na plus O2 gives 2Na2O. So this is the whole solutions for writing and balancing this equation. Let's take another example. Now let's translate every single detail in this one here. The question says we have solid copper. Solid, it means solid, right? And copper, which is an element. So we can write CuS, okay. Reacts, we make a plus, with aqueous silver nitrate. Aqueous, it means like you have to put AQ and silver nitrate. What you should remember, like silver, it's a transition element, and it has a charge of a +1 always. You have to memorize this. And the nitrates look like this, and it has a charge of 1. Then we just make a cross multiplication. So it will be like AgNO3, and it says that it's aqueous. So we put a small bracket and put AQ. AQ. Okay, and it produces what? I want to erase this. Okay. It produces aqueous copper, to nitrate. Where's the meaning of copper? What do you remember about copper? What we remember, we just noticed that copper is a transition element, and it has 2 possible charges. It could be +1 or +2, right? So it says that in this question, it says the charge of copper is 2, then we put 2 under copper. And nitrate, we just remember nitrate is NO3. It has a charge of 1. We make a cross multiplication in this case. And then we got Cu, we put a bracket, NO3 by 2. Why did we put a bracket? Because if you didn't put the bracket, it looks like this, Cu, NO3, 2. Ow. No, you have to separate it, and that's why we put a bracket. And then we can say silver metal like Ag, and it's a small silver like a metal. Don't forget to put aqueous. It's here Aq. This is really cool and nice. The second part of the question says we have to balance this equation. And now let's go. We have a beautiful equation, and it's time to balance this equation. So here we have 1 copper atom. Here we have 1 copper. Good, everybody's happy. But if you go for Ag, here we have 1 Ag. Wow, it's really cool. But if you go, how many nitrogen atom here? We have 1. But if we have here, we have a small 2. It means that this 2 is multiplied by oxygen. It's multiplied by nitrogen. So what to do in this case? I have to multiply this by 2. But we have another problem. If you multiply this by 2, you're multiplying the whole compound. You're multiplying Ag, N, and O. So the number of nitrogen here is 2. The number of nitrogen is 2. We have 6 oxygens because we have 3 multiplied by 2. 6 oxygens, and here we have 6 oxygens. Really cool. And we have to go back again. We just remember that silver is multiplied by 2 in here, right? But here it's not. Then we multiply it by 2. Then the product will be like CuS plus 2Ag NO3 aqueous, okay, gives Cu NO3 by 2 aqueous plus 2Ag solid. That's it. Okay, let's take another example. If I give you something like magnesium, Mg, plus oxygen, and it gives you MgO, and here you have to multiply this by 2 and multiply this by 2. My question is, can you tell me how can I write this to word equation? How can I change it to word? First of all, you're gonna go, hey, this is magnesium, then you can say magnesium. Okay, this plus will be the same. We put a plus. Here we have oxygen. We can say oxygen. We have the same arrow. We put the arrow. What do we call this compound? It's called magnesium oxide. That's it. Magnesium oxide. That's it. This is how to translate the word equation. This is word equation because you're using the words. This is a word, magnesium. This is simple. You're using simples. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.